Hi, I'm Forrest Griffin.
Brian Caraway.
And Lisa Tate.
What's up, guys? This is Joseph Benavidez, UFC Flyweight.
Hi, this is Greg Jackson, and you're listening to It's MMAzing, and that is an amazing pun.
Get it? Like MMA, but amazing? Amazing.
Radio.
Welcome to It's MMAzing Radio. I am your host, Dr. Law, and with me, Kid Presentable.
The one and only in more ways than one. I'll try my best to give that DJ Mark level technical breakdown, but don't expect too much.
Yeah, I'll do my best here as well. Spoiler alert: my technical analysis of what happened to Jacare is going to be he got his shit broke off. All right, guys. No DJ Mark. Lavender Gooms, he's out in Utah trying to secure an interview with Court McGee, but we forgot. His relationship with Court McGee isn't what yours and mine is, Steph. So we weren't able to secure it necessarily, but he's working on it.
I mean, if I want to get that interview with Court McGee, all I have to do is go out to the general public, wander around, and there he'll be. You know,
seriously, the best is when we were in that fucking flea market, and I'm just like, Stefan, look, it's Court McGee. He's just right there. All right, folks. We got ourselves a new UFC lightweight champion. And we got further confirmation that goddamn, that's the best division in this sport. A lot of fun shit happened, but we're going to talk about Charles Oliveira. Really exemplifying, I think, why this is probably my favorite sport. We see a lot of storylines coming out of that fight. Talk about where he goes from here. Talk about Michael Chandler, a man who got so close, so goddamn close. We're going to talk about Beneil Dariush calling out Elon Musk and fighting in the name of those of us who have been influenced by Marxist ideologies. Look, Beneil seems like a nice guy, but that was real fucking weird. We're going to talk about Tony Ferguson, where he goes from here. You know, he has the line of the fucking year already. We'll talk about, though, his career, that's really this point. We're going to skip over two fights almost blatantly. We're going to talk about Edson Barboza, Shane Burgos, making us all wonder what happens when a man's body says no more fighting. And yeah, Jacare, shit broke entirely. Stefan, let's get into it. Charles Oliveira, man. You know, when Michael Bisping had that record, they said, for most UFC fights before winning a championship, and I think they said it was like 24 or 25 or something like that. I could be wrong here. I did think, well, that one's never going anywhere. Charles Oliveira, brother, 28 UFC fights before winning the championship. Well, go ahead. Yeah, what did we see last Saturday night?
28 career fights. I believe with this win, I think I read he has 17 finishes now, which sets another UFC mark. In basketball terms, it's something they talk about a lot. And, our guy with the Golden State Warriors, Steph Curry, they say he'll be the last of them. That guy who kind of begins and ends his career with one team, and that's that. And in a way, that's kind of what Charles Oliveira, not that he had his entirety of his career in the UFC, but we saw him show up pretty young.
Was he 19, 18 or something like that?
Yeah, like I said, my earliest memory of him was when he slicked Efren Escudero. They got into a clinch. He bounces him off the cage, and then just immediately gets him all tangled up and tats him. You know, you always knew he was like a slick jiu-jitsu kid. Skinny beanpole, right? That's what you remember. You just remember this long, skinny beanpole. Great jiu-jitsu, kind of solid kickboxer. But then what was kind of the stain on his career for so long was that Donald Cerrone jab. But let's be honest, that was a very young Charles Oliveira against the prime Donald Cowboy when that happened, But from that point, he's a guy that you never wrote him off, right? You never thought he was washed. You just never knew if he was quite championship material. But if you look at his last 8 fights in particular, some light switch flipped, and maybe it's the guy just entering his late 20s and physically maturing. But that striking power we never thought was there, it's been there for a minute now, and it kind of really culminated in again a picture perfect left hook was the sequence. But in terms of the whole fight, it was only barely.
I think it was 19 seconds into the second round.
Yeah, it was an action-packed round, and then it went real quick in the second. But all I remember is the first fight there was a bit of an overhand left from Chandler that kind of grazed Charles. But once you hit the ground, you realize that actually cut him really good. That was a good cut above the eye. There was a lot of blood on Charles' face, which would then later on be on Dana White's face, by the way.
Yeah, that was, people who didn't see it, just a quick recap of what happened. Fight starts, immediately Chandler gets calf kicked and falls over, and you're like, whoa, what? We're doing this now. But Chandler does this thing with his striking that, it's how he knocked out, help me. Hooker. How he knocked out Hooker. But he does it a lot too. Is that he'll throw a lot of single strikes, right? And then eventually, it's not that complicated. He will follow that up with, then eventually he'll throw that strike again and follow it up with a big looping overhand. And he cracked, Oliveira, not that forcefully, you mentioned, grazed him with the left, overhand left. They went to the ground, and then at some point, Oliveira is on his back for 3 minutes. 3 minutes left. I'm like, you thought it's over.
It's one of those things where, like I said, with Oliveira, he's come a long way. In the past, those kind of shots might have made Charles wilt, but he fired the takedown immediately. And like you said, in the scramble, he ended up getting a tight body triangle on him.
I thought we were going home. I thought we were done. Charles Oliveira's got your back with 3 minutes left in the round. We're going home.
Where it looked bad was Chandler was able to stand with him riding on the back, and he did that kind of desperate saving throw. But how many times have we seen it where that just makes it worse? That just sinks it in deeper, right? Yeah. He just straight dove to his back with Charles on him as if that slam would get him off. But we've seen countless times that gets, that just gets it in deeper. But he what he did really well there was he fought Charles' hands really well, and Charles, he kind of lulled him into a sense of false security where Charles was kind of doing those pitter patter punches, couldn't really generate anything. But in that complacency, props to Chandler, he exploded. Yeah. He was able to twist and completely flip it into guard, and that's what allowed him to kind of escape. Like you said, we thought,
I thought
Charles,
we're done.
Charles, when you're back with 3.5 minutes to work, that ends with a submission more often than it doesn't. But,
yeah, and then later on in that round, they're both back up. The second time you got him with the overhand left, he fucking walloped Charles Oliveira. And Charles Oliveira's on the ground. He's hurt, but he's moving. He's defending. And Steph, I feel this was we really got to see. You mentioned it. This is the knock on Charles Oliveira was beyond the technical. Okay, maybe his hands or legs or feet where his striking wasn't there yet. Was that if things aren't going well, he's not going to come back from it. And I don't want to say, Daniel Cormier said, I don't want to say the word quitter, but that was the reputation. Not that he's, giving up and necessarily, it's just he's not going to turn it around. And we really saw his maturity where, he got his shit rocked. And, he lost that round. And, second round comes, he survived. Second round comes, 19 seconds in. Beautiful Rampage Jackson-esque left hook. Hits Chandler. Chandler tries to recover. Fucking can't. Gets dropped, finishes him off. And Dope Bronx, man. He did it. That was you fell for Chandler here. And I'm not the biggest Chandler fan in the world. And I'll say this, though. The man does not have boring fights. This guy he's in it to end fights. And he's a bit too hittable sometimes. And he just got hit with the right shot at the right time. And, all class at the end talked about how Charles Oliveira is one of the toughest guys he's ever faced, obviously. And Charles Oliveira bled all over Dana White. Charles Oliveira ran into the crowd. People were psyched. That was an all-time celebration right there. That was really cool.
Yeah. Even as soon as in the victory, you see a lot of guys have emotional reactions, not quite like Charles did. He was in tears. He was kissing the belt. It was almost kind of pro wrestling-esque in his reaction to the belt. Not to say that it's fake, but it's just it was just such a level of emotion. And, a lot of guys in MMA, they're too cool, right? They're too cool. They're too tough. They're too badass to really have that kind of genuine moment. But we got it with Charles, and that like you said, that is kind of the story on him, is that he not necessarily a front runner, but that he doesn't necessarily push through adversity. But again, man, I haven't super gone over his history of fights tooth and comb, thoroughly reviewing it. But I think I think Mark would agree if he was here with me. It's kind of like what we did with Dos Anjos. There was one really bad memory, and it just kind of colored our picture of him for a while, but it just might have been that one time, right? It might not have been a career of it.
Well, it also translated in wins and losses because he was 10-8 10-8-1 in the UFC. And then since then, he's 9-1, I think. The only loss being the Felder in the middle there. Like, I don't know if it's a new team or whatever, but like, because we never heard about where Charles Oliveira trains. It's in Brazil.
Per the countdown show, which I did catch, he's a Shuto box guy. So I guess, getting your ass kicked in camp all day, eventually you can't wilt to that pressure.
And he's like, he was missing weight. He's still talking about going back to 45 now. He just won that
missing
belt.
Weight was the tough part.
Today he said he wants to go to 45. Like today, he just became champion. Like, this is a man who, like, and God bless. The interview started and I'm like, there's not gonna be a word of fucking English, not even a thank you Houston or anything with like. There's not a
Bobby,
word.
One of the nice touch is right after the fight ended, he wants to run up to talk to Michael Chandler and give him words of respect. He brings the translator.
Yeah, he's like,
I got no English for you, man. So here's immediately this translator. I can't even say good fight. I can't even say respect in English. The translator's here. We're gonna.
I just imagine Oliveira walking around wherever city they're fighting in with that Google Lens thing, where it just like you hold it up and it translates for you. He's just trying to figure out his shit the whole time. That was like, man, these guys wanted it too. Like Chandler at the press conference, I'm not sure if you saw this clip where he answers the final question about like, I'll be back. I'm, all the standard stuff you say being a class act. But then like there's no more questions for him, and he puts his head on the microphone and just takes like a deep sigh before getting up, and you're like, this guy knows this weight class, man. Like Charles Oliveira had to be in this fucking weight class for 28 fights. Like, Tony Ferguson had to win like 10 fights to get an interim title fight, and like, there was injuries and stuff. But like, it's not easy to get a title shot in this weight class. And
I will say, I think with Chandler in that moment, we're not in his head, right? So we don't know. But to me, I would read that moment, not that it's going to take him a long road to get back, because he's still in the thick of things, right? Like, if he beats a Justin Gaethje, it's not going to take him.
By the way, I was going to ask you if that's next, because if they don't book that, we're just ruining all the fun, right? Like, that's what.
Yeah. So it's like, if he can bounce back real quick, I think the exasperation for him is how close he was.
Yeah.
At the end of the first round, he was maybe one just slightly better punch away from having gotten that, so it's tough, right? He's 35. He's still got time left, but, you were really close. It's not that he just got starched, which happened in the second round. That first round was his. So, you got to feel for the guy who just barely, loses at the finish line. But I fully believe him back. And like you said, if it appears that the most likely title challenger should be the winner of Dustin Conor. More looking at Dustin rather than Conor deserving it, but obviously, Well,
honestly, I will say that Conor deserves it because I think Dustin Poirier was basically the uncrowned champion. Sure. Honestly, like at this point, remember we talked about like, well, who's left out in this combination of fights? It was Justin Gaethje. Gaethje's the one who got kind of fucked in this equation. And if Conor beats Dustin Poirier or Dustin beats Conor, that's it. If Dustin beats Conor, that is absolutely the fight, right? Let's just get into it. There's no scenario where it's not Dustin Poirier versus Charles Oliveira. Conor McGregor versus Charles Oliveira will be the fight if Conor McGregor wants to fight Charles Oliveira. Yeah,
that's the only thing that gets complicated there is because Conor's not necessarily the belt guy, right? He could be. He's saying the right things. It makes sense for him because he actually kind of has quite a lot to prove right now. I think a lot of shine came off with that Dustin loss. So, maybe he has something to prove. And like we've said in the past, Conor's always been best when he's the hunter. Yeah. Right? He doesn't do as well being the hunted, right? He needs that little extra push of motivation to have the pinnacle to reach for. But,
this is also not a new challenge. That's why I wonder if he even wants it. Like, also, by the way, this weight class, can you confidently say any of these guys in the top 5 is going to definitely beat one of the other guys in the top 5? Because I love Charles Oliveira. He may not hold his belt more than one fight. Like, it's a mess.
It's true. Like he was just as close to losing it. But what I will say, what I like about Charles, he might be the most complete guy at lightweight. Because, like I said, he got rocked by that overhand. And he took down Michael Chandler, who is a very well-credentialed MMA wrestler with a blast double. And he got it easy. It's not that he fought for it. He didn't have to push him to the fence. He didn't have to break him down. He just shot and got it and took his back in the scramble. So, he might be the most complete fighter. And look how technically sound he was. That left hook they were raving. Picture perfect, right hand up, covering the chin. No wasted motion. Just
it reminded me of the one Quinton hit Vanderlei with. Honestly, it reminded me of just like he nailed him. Do you find it a miracle that he has not already fought Dustin Poirier? Because I'm sitting here not believing that they haven't fought each other.
Yes and no. It's like like we said, it's the shark pool or the Shark Tank, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of talented fighters that have come through this division, and also Poirier in his event, he had also been kind of floating through 145 too, so they were kind of trading off. But it's just one more fight to look forward to. It's like when we said, before this fight even got made, this is just essentially a tailor-made tournament in lightweight right here, and so it'll work itself out. All the matchups are exciting. It's truly the healthiest division, I'd say, in the UFC right now.
This sport, like as you go down in weight, it just gets better and better. I mean, the 55. 45, 35. 25 is not there yet. You can tell 25 is getting better with guys like Brandon Moreno and Figueiredo. And finally, it's once the big champion leaves, that's when the weight class kind of gets his shit together, you've noticed. But that's it, man. Like the sport, the weights where they can't go play a different sport for more money is where the sport gets very good. All right. Chandler versus Gaichi. I strongly want to see Chandler versus Gaichi. That is the fight to make. Not Gaichi versus Dariush. I'm sure that'll be fun. Look, they're all good fights at lightweight, but I want Gaichi versus Chandler. That sounds like a good fight to me. Speaking of the man, Beneil Dariush beating Tony Ferguson. Were you bored watching this? Because I was not, but maybe because in my head I had a narrative going of like, man, he's really gonna beat Tony. He's just gonna beat Tony.
I would say bored isn't the right word. The fight was a little uneventful. It was kind of defeating, right? The crowd was on Tony's side. That was very obvious from the get-go. He was the star of the press conference, right? We'll talk about his great...
It was a Mexican in Texas versus an Iranian, brother. I mean, come on.
Liner. From Glendale? He's from, like, Southern California, I believe, right?
Yeah, whatever. My man's Mexican. He's El Cucuy, okay? In Texas, right?
It's one of those things, as, you watched it and it kind of revealed, right? Part of it was like, man, did we really think that this was the guy who had something for Khabib? He can just be controlled, and so that's boring isn't the right word, but Beneil didn't threaten anything. Well, he
popped his shit. He popped his shit, in fairness.
Okay. Once he realized that he couldn't get Tony to tap.
There we go.
Because yes, he got a great heel hook in during the scramble. So he's a very adept grappler. My bad. I apologize, Beneil Dariush. I am not a follower of Marxist ideologies. That's not why I'm throwing shade on you. I just forgot. That's right. He got a great heel hook, and you see absolute agony on Tony's face. And then nothing happens. And then the scramble just keeps going. So I think from that point, that's how the fight ended, was a lot of top control. What did I say? What's that ref's name? Mike
Beltran?
Mike Beltran. I was like, Mike, he really respects top control. Because there was a lot of laying in position where just nothing was happening.
It was one of those fights where Tan Dan might have gotten bored. And been like, fuck it, boys, get up. By the way, Beltran, I'm telling you, he had to shave that mustache to fit it under a mask. I'm telling you. There's no way he could have kept the long fucking braided mustache.
So just to kind of wrap it. So it's, again, boring's not the right word. It's not that exciting, right? It's Beneil won in a definitive manner, but it wasn't such a pronounced manner that you're like, he's here. He's one of the top guys. Throw him in against the Gaichis, the Chandlers. You don't get that excitement because it's not, I mean, if he pulled off that heel hook, yes, but he didn't. So you're just kind of hoping of a more like definitive, like true finish. And then with Tony, it's just also coming off of his recent string of fights. You can't help but think, oh, maybe this guy's just done. At least on the elite end of the scale, right? Because he's lost 3 in a row, and they were 3 very definitive losses. He showed his heart, his toughness, but he has had no ability to apply any offense of his own.
I think that first fight, man, he took a lot of damage. You have those kind of fights where, like, Justin beat his ass. And it kind of reminded me of, like, after when, like, Lawler fight Carlos Condit, and you're just afterwards, you're like, these guys aren't going to be the same. And then they were not the same. Rory McDonald was never the same. You get a beating in a fight. That's not, I mean, Tony's also 37 years old. He's been in a lot of MMA fights, and he's not exactly hard to hit.
But that's the weird thing that's slightly off of it, and maybe it just means we're actually one more fight away from it going off the cliff. Usually when that happens, right, it means you see the guy, he starts getting turned off easier, right? Punches that wouldn't knock him out suddenly do. They get caught in submissions that they never would. Tony is still really freaking tough, but he can't get his offense off anymore. He's not his funky like striking style. He's not getting those elbows anymore. His punches aren't really dropping anyone anymore, and his grappling hasn't been sharp enough to get anyone.
We got 2 straight fights where he should have tapped out to things that fucked him up. Yes. Honestly, and the one against Gaichi, remember his body just like he just couldn't. He took so much damage that he just like. It was like, you know, just immediately crumbled from pain, it looked like. You just couldn't do it anymore. Yeah, Tony can't necessarily, I mean, he's going to convince himself he didn't get knocked out. He'll probably, you know, talk himself into another, you know, big one. But he should be fighting guys closer to, like, this is a tough division, man. You know, let's say guys closer to 10, 11, maybe 12 in that area. You know?
Yeah, I mean, he kind of slides into gatekeeper-like territory now, you know, like the high-level one where if you beat him, you're probably a real fighter, you know? But unfortunately, that's just kind of where he is. I can't see him beating any of the top guys anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say the UFC might just do some wild shit and book him and Edson Barboza because they did it once. And they're like, oh, we can main event a fight night with that. And then we all get to wonder about this man taking damage all over again. That's what I just, in my head, that's what the type of fight they're going to give him.
But the name value's there, and that's why, you know, he won't get cut losing 3 in a row. But it's, you know, when it comes going forward, the majority of us will not be picking Tony Ferguson in the next fight he's in.
Yeah, Mark, his guy is Tony. Mark didn't pick his guy Tony. And I didn't pick the only Iranian in the UFC. So, yeah, we probably should have switched there. Rodrigo Bontorin, Matt Schnell. Look, I mean, this was the fight where I was eating chicken wings, and this was like, I'll be honest with you guys, I have nothing. And I mean, Stefan, do you have anything notable to say? They went the decision. One guy missed weight by a lot.
Yeah, the guy who missed weight by a lot won.
Yep. Good for him.
Oh, we didn't actually say it, so we'll just circle back to Tony.
Yeah. Line of the fucking year, where he was at the press conference before telling Michael Chandler he didn't deserve this title shot, and it was gifted to him. And how did he get that title shot, Stefan?
He's got Dana White privilege.
Dana White privilege, man. That is, yeah. That was Dana White. By the way, I mean,
Dana was cracking up. Dana recognized.
I'm not that I'm really like enjoying Dana White these days, but Dana White giving a big hearty bellow of a laugh, and then Chandler being like, "Thanks, Dana." That made it awesome. The whole thing was just wonderful. And then Tony said, "Hey, man, we should make the performance bonus a 75K instead of 50K." And then they did it. So he didn't get any of that money, but you know, someone who did should probably cut Tony a check. You know, pitch him a couple grand.
You know who should have been tweeting that out is one John Jones, because you know, Dana White doesn't have money to pay this guy, but you can just increase the bonuses on a whim because you got that money laying around apparently.
Absolutely. All right. Caitlin Chukagian, Vivian Arujo. We all picked Caitlin, I think, because we're all just like, this lady's tough. She wins fights. People thought she didn't win. Okay. Steph, what else do we say?
Yeah, I think this is something we have been saying is with how close this fight was and how the judging was kind of wonky, particularly at 30-27. That's the one that stood out. There's no way that Caitlin won all 3 rounds because I definitely thought she lost the second. I missed the first round, but heard she was losing that one. So that was just kind of wonky, but like I said, the problem is if this was 2 versus 7, it shows the Grand Canyon size gulf between the contenders and the champion.
Yep.
And so what our takeaway from this is there's no contender and there's no compelling contender.
What,
so
you don't think wait, did they say someone's fighting her already or not? No, I'm thinking about Pena. That's 135. That makes no sense either, that one's great.
Yeah, so yeah, it's you know, we'll get to see Valentina style on someone again whenever they decide.
Valentina versus Amanda. Let's just fucking do it, all right? Just do it. All right, Edson Barboza, Shane Burgos was everything it was advertised to be. 2 kickboxers beating the shit out of each other. And then in the third round, Shane Burgos got hit with a right, and he looked like he was okay. And then about 6 seconds later, he fell over because he was not okay. Very delayed reaction to a knockout. Also, I'm not sure how many times I've seen Edson Barboza knock people out with his hands, Steph.
Yeah, I mean, there's normally an accumulation, right, where it is a guy crumbles. So in that sense, it kind of fits. But I do wish Mark was on to at least talk about this. Maybe somewhere in his wealth of combat watching. Maybe it was in a kickboxing match. But I've just never seen this kind of delayed reaction. Right?
Yeah.
We were talking when we were kind of warming up on our pre-show was like, the delayed reaction. A lot of it we kind of associated it with the liver shot, right? Mm-hmm. Where it gets hit, your body shuts down. We saw it famously kind of with Paul Daly is one of the guys it happened to. It just takes them a second, right? Because your body is sending signals to the brain. But yeah, what we saw here was just like a straight right that kind of cracked, him on the eye. That's why I was reading like, oh, was it an orbital shatter? Because, maybe there's a delayed reaction from the pain there. From the medicals, it wasn't an orbital thing. He takes the punch, he gets his hands up, and then he takes one step back, staggers, collapses into the fence, just falls face forward. It's not, when people say it's
wow,
wonky, we're not questioning the legitimacy. We're not saying there was a throw. It just looked weird. I even saw a headline where it said Edson Barboza himself says, "I'm not sure where I hit him. That's what happened." But the two guys were having a war. So, maybe it's just an accumulation. Maybe he was just heavily concussed and his brain was just catching up. We won't know for sure.
Yep. Edson Barboza, man, will still fuck you up. Just Edson Barboza's there, man. And Shane Burgos, hope he's okay because I like watching him fight. I very much enjoy watching him fight, quite frankly. All right. Andre Muniz, Jacare Souza on the prelims. Now, 4 minutes into the fight, Jacare gets armbarred, and the video I heard posted by UFC Canada, I'm not sure they jacked up the microphone. You heard this man's arm snap like a twig. And then you also saw him be totally unbothered by his broken arm, smile, and give the gentleman a hug when the fight was over. That part was less surprising because I think a lot of people know the story of Jacare winning the Jiu-Jitsu World Championships where he's facing Roger Gracie. Roger Gracie breaks his arm. Jacare doesn't tap out, so he puts his useless arm into his belt and defends for another minute or so and wins on points. So Jacare is a different type of human being. Stefan, let me ask you this. 4 straight losses. Who is the UFC really going to call Jacare and tell him, hey, man, we know you just broke your shit entirely, but we're sending you a trash bag with all your belongings. You're cut. Like, are we done?
I mean, this is something for Jacare to consider at this point. Is what is he still fighting for?
Money.
He's so far removed from the title picture. Does he just want to be a name that kind of gets fed to be name value fodder? Maybe, I don't know. But, it's like the joke I made with him and Chris Weidman too recently. These old middleweights, they need to check their diet if they've been secretly drinking milk because their bone is very brittle. We've got a lot of snapping of old middleweights' limbs lately. But Jacare, his name is still going to carry value for a little bit.
He's got a relationship with our dude Scotty Coker over there, too, from Strikeforce days.
I mean, yeah, he could always go to the old man's division, the UFC washouts. He has value, right? If he wants to fight, he'll keep fighting. It's a big thing of should he anymore at this point. Something's clearly been lost, right? He had never been subbed. Had we been foolish enough to pick this fight, I know some of you suckers would have picked Jacare on name value here.
I would have. I don't know who the hell this other guy is.
It's just one of those. I don't think he should fight anymore, but if he wants to, he clearly will keep going.
Some motherfucker went into a casino drunk and bet on this other dude by submission against Jacare. And he bet $10 as a joke, and he won 150, and now he's just could have been rich.
We're not as much of hardcores as we used to be, just due to burnout and saturation of the market. But if you did go into Muniz's credentials, he's not a nobody. Apparently, he is a very renowned grappler in his own right.
Fair
and
enough.
He's a lot younger, so it's one of those. In hindsight, it's actually shouldn't have been shocking that he could win by sub. But like I said, Jacare just has so much name value. Sometimes it's tough to accept that people just are old, right? Dana said it with Tony. Time catches up to us all. No one is immune to it in sports.
Yep. Lando Venata had a really nice performance against Mike Grundy, and I know Lando has a lot of split decisions, so I think people might just be like, oh, another split. But he won this fight easily, and one of the judges was giving 10s to the wrong guy. That's the only explanation. I thought he looked really good. And Andrea Lee with a sweet triangle armbar on Antonina Shevchenko, which, she's not as good as Valentina, man. It's just the way it is. Not everybody's,
You know what?
Yeah,
I have siblings. I won't say what the order is. There's always a lesser sibling. Everyone who's had siblings knows there's a lesser sibling.
She's a commercial pilot. She got other shit going on, And Christos Gigos got a performance of the night bonus with a sweet Bravo choke on the curtain jerker. I point that out because the fight of the night, Barboza versus Burgos, cool. Performance of the night, Charles Oliveira and Christos Gigos with his Bravo choke. That's right. Breaking Jacare's fucking arm does not get you a performance bonus. I don't understand that entirely.
That's a bit shocking. That is definitely.
I'm just saying, I'm curtain jerking Christos Gigos probably doesn't have a lot of cash, but maybe buy Muniz a beer. You muted yourself, Steph.
Oh, the no-name guy who beat Jacare, he's not getting a big paycheck either, I'm pretty sure. So, that's another guy who could have used that performance bonus.
We need one of those things. We need to bring back those locker room bonuses where they just give a guy money just for the sake of it, to keep him off.
The Fertitas, hey, we like you guys.
Here's
what we like you. Check.
Let's cut this guy a check for $10,000. I mean, let's probably cut Jacare a check for $10,000 too. That's a different.
Like you said, Bobby, that new Venom uniform deal didn't adjust for inflation, so there's not a lot of money there.
They lost money. All right, that's it for UFC 262. I thought the main card. You give me 3 entertaining fights. I'm okay. It was 2 entertaining fights, and one more so that you're like, oh, this good guy's not good anymore. It was okay. We were supposed to get Nate and Leon Edwards on this for 5 rounds. I imagine that's going to be a good time in a few weeks. And we also lost Edmund Shabazian versus Jack Hermanson, which has actually got moved to this week because a member of, I believe, Jack's team. One member of Jack's team had a COVID issue. But they're fighting this coming week, and we'll talk about that fight shortly here. Some news, Stefan. I guess the biggest news, besides the fact that Stipe's in bulking season, and apparently he's going to get a title shot after Lewis and Ngannou. Seriously, Stipe's going to come in at 260. It's going to be great. The highest paid athlete in the world last year was Mr. Conor McGregor. These are all estimates, as done by Forbes every year. Conor McGregor got $180 million. And I like the breakdown of he got $22 million on the field. I'm doing air quotes. This is not a visual medium. I get it. And 158 off the field. So selling his whiskey brand, which for something that's only existed for 2-3 years, props. Selling it for $150 million, well fucking done. But Conor McGregor, number one, made $180 million last year, which makes you think, man, he must really like MMA that he's even doing this. Because you wouldn't hear from me ever again, Steph.
I kind of downplayed it in the sense that, look, none of that came to do with being a sportsman. That was just a business transaction that somehow got him above everyone else's endorsement deals. But it's a one-off, so we're not going to see Conor this high next year. But the fact that he hit number one, even if it's for 1 year, that's amazing. Considering
we haven't seen an MMA fighter near this list ever.
Considering the amount of money that's in baseball, that's in football, international soccer, right?
Well, I was going to say number 2, Lionel Messi at 130 million. Number 3, by the way, Messi had about 97 on the field. So I don't know the paychecks at Real at Barcelona are real nice. Ronaldo at 120 million, and then Dak Prescott at 107 million, then LeBron at 97 million at number 5. So yeah, man, these other sports normally pay better.
So, I mean, yeah, hats off. It'll be the last MMA fighter we see for a while on this list, most likely, unless I do have a caveat. This is official above board reported money, Bobby. But if we could somehow quantify oligarch money, Khabib. He's a top five guy.
How much did Khabib make? I need to know that. By the way, the measuring stick here was from May. The season they measured was May 1st, 2020 to May 1st, 2021, which we might as well call this pandemic profiteering by athletes. Now that I'm looking at this,
so Dak only just made the cut because they gave him that contract at the end of the season.
Yeah,
he didn't have it for the whole season.
Dak just got paid this week, basically. How much did we give Trent Williams? Isn't he gonna, be up here somewhere? Didn't we give him like $60 million or something guaranteed? Some shit like that.
It's not that whiskey money, Bobby. It's not whiskey money.
Dak's on the field is $97.5 million, off the field $10 million. So yeah, Dak is he's got a
American football players are not really great for endorsements.
Yeah, but I guess Conor's got deals with obviously Proper 12. He made a lot of money. DraftKings, the video game Dystopia Contest of Heroes. I'm gonna guess a mobile game, honestly. And then apparently he's got a Roots of Fight deal, which I think I need to look at the Roots of Fight website because I didn't know Conor's on there. So
I don't know about the Roots of Fight, man. All I know is that Bret the Hitman Hart jacket is like $250. That's ridiculous, guys. That is ridiculous. Bret Hart doesn't own that jacket.
Yeah, come on. Look, we all love the Hart Foundation, but we gotta it's like still like 10% unemployment, right, or something. Like, come on, let's get it together. The other news and Bellator's back this week. And Bellator's like, hey, remember how cool it was when Cyborg fought Leslie Smith? No, it wasn't cool? Well, imagine it was cool, because we're doing it again. My takeaway from this, Steph, is that we've been doing this a long time with Cyborg. Where we just send some person out there to lose to Cyborg. Like, we saw her beat up Jan Finney in June of 2010. Like, it's been a hot minute. It might have been 2009.
I mean,
actually.
Cyborg, she's kind of been quiet lately, but I feel like when she first went over to Bellator, she was doing, I think Pitbull copied her move where, like, I'm going to call out fighters in other organizations that I'm clearly never going to fight. Let's do a co-brand thing. It's like Cyborg, they cut you, or they didn't re-sign you. You're not going to fight a UFC fighter.
Look, and all for if the pure meritocracy, there's no other 145-pound fighters in the world worth a damn. It would be nice if she was there. She's not. So, and we all love Leslie Smith. She's, all you motherfuckers complaining about pay now. Maybe you should have signed one of those union cards Leslie Smith was trying to get you to sign. So,
I got some nonsense for you, Bob. Purely hypothetical. Who would you pick in some world where there is either an open weight or agreed upon catch weight? Valentina Shevchenko or Cyborg?
I think if they weighed the same amount, I would pick Valentina. I don't know, man. Valentina barely lost to Amanda, and Amanda dusted Cyborg, huh?
If there was, let's say they can agree on just some type of 15-pound open weight.
I mean, I like Valentina a lot. I'd probably pick Valentina. Let's be honest. She's my favorite female fighter. And
there's not a lot of things to do with Cyborg right now, is my point.
Yeah, I'm the only one trying to book that Valentina versus Amanda fight that wasn't even good the first two times. Yeah, I don't think anything else really is going on news-wise. But yeah, before we do stuff we like, just want to say New Jack died the other day.
We're not doing any picks?
Oh, wait, I forgot picks. We'll talk about New Jack after. You know what? I already said it. We'll do picks after.
Jack, Bobby. What's going on with New Jack?
So, New Jack, if you're a wrestling fan, you probably know New Jack, I'd say. If you're a wrestling fan in the 90s even, I don't know, actually. Maybe you don't. New Jack took wrestling for real. Let's put it like that. New Jack stabbed motherfuckers in a ring if he was disrespected. He's a very controversial figure, obviously, for a number of reasons. Man famously was in Smoky Mountain Wrestling in Kentucky, playing a heel, and went on Southern Wrestling Television and said, shout out to O.J. Simpson for taking care of two of them, two less to worry about. So
I mean, we'll say about New Jack, we're both Reddit users, Bobby, and we freaking squared circle. I had never seen a rest in peace wrestling thread like the one to New Jack. A good 35% were good. Fuck that guy. Glad he's gone. Like the people who don't like New Jack, really
Yeah, well, in
don't
fairness,
like New Jack.
New Jack's done some shit. Like,
Yeah, like
I saw Lance Storm.
There's a rap sheet on New Jack.
Oh, well, I mean, literal rap street.
Yeah.
I mean, New Jack was talking about the time where, like, he had to, like, he was just snorting cocaine right before fights. The time he was in a scaffold match where he tased the other guy and just heaved him off. Because that was... Watch the Dark Side of the Ring about New Jack. I don't know what's going on with Vice. They don't care. It's on YouTube. Watch it. It's very interesting. But Lance Storm had a thing on Twitter where he said, don't tag me in things where you want to say anything negative about New Jack because it doesn't matter to me. I had my relationship with him. It is what it is. And Paul Heyman, you should check this out, Steph, if you didn't. Paul Heyman gave a very nice eulogy of sorts on Talking Smack, talking about New Jack. Jerome Young, if you will. So, yeah, it's one of those wrestling deaths where you're almost surprised it didn't happen sooner. It's kind of sad to say, because, like, New Jack, yeah, man, like, he's come to the ring. They'd play Natural Born Killers the whole match. They didn't have the rights to Natural Born Killers. They just played it. You know, he hit a guy with it. I wish Mark was here, because Mark's favorite thing was when he would come out with the banjo, New Jack, and he's act like he's playing the banjo, and then he'd wallop the motherfucker with the banjo. ECW was a wild time, honestly.
I mean, that man, like, when I just think of him, I think of what is arguably the most bladed forehead in the history of pro wrestling. That is just a crater of scar tissue on his head. Like, yeah, it is. He bled for the sport of pro wrestling, whether you liked him or not.
Oh, you know, my man, a lot of people did some stuff at ECW for us that didn't get the thanks they deserved or money. Picks. UFC Fight Night. I read they're doing all the fight nights they're expecting to be at the Apex for the rest of the year, Steph. Which I didn't expect that, to be honest, because...
Bobby, only pay-per-views are worthy of signing COVID death waivers for crowds.
I don't think they need to do that anymore. Honestly, when the CDC said if you're vaccinated, you're cool, like, I think all bets... I mean, it's interesting how badly...
You think the UFC is going out of their way to prove verification of
no, I don't know how I don't honestly like MMA aside, I think I had an employee ask me, I mean, how, like, say to me, like, how could the CDC recommend people not wear masks anymore? And I said, honestly, I think the impression is anybody who wants a vaccine has gotten a vaccine or is about to get a vaccine, and that we can't remain in a holding pattern forever to placate a group of people who are never going to agree to get the vaccine. So it's very much saying if you don't want to get a vaccine, you've accepted the consequences. That's my take on the situation, honestly. So I think that's where we collectively have reached, which is interesting considering how badly this country handled the actual pre-vaccine part of this pandemic. And we're fucking just like killing it on the bad use of words, but we're doing amazing on the vaccine rollout, quite frankly. So it's interesting how quickly things turn, but that's my take on what it is, because shit's open. Everything's open. I mean, California is going to wait a couple of weeks, but there's no indoor mask mandate in most of the states anymore because of the CDC. Anyway, they're going to be in the Apex for the rest of the year, which I'm genuinely surprised by, because I don't know how far in advance you got to book arenas, but I guess they don't think, I mean, I'm sure they could sell tickets if they actually put a good enough show together in any of these places, but maybe they'll put some shit into Hard Rock in Vegas. Main event, though, is a fight that I know you've been looking forward to for quite some time. Your boy Rob Font getting that fucking main event push, man. Taking on Cody Garbrandt. A banger at bantamweight. A couple other interesting fights on this. But Rob Font coming off of... Who the hell did he knock out? It was a big one, too.
Oh, don't put me on the spot. You know my memory is...
No, he got a really big win. God damn it. Marlon. He knocked out Marlon.
That's right.
Yeah, and Cody Garbrandt, who honestly, I have never felt more uneasy picking a fight before. Because Cody Garbrandt's coming off of having really bad COVID complications.
He's coming off of harassing a flight attendant. That's who he's coming off of.
That too. That also. But, like, remember the whole thing about, like, he was just, like, fucked? Like, genuinely fucked up for, like...
Yeah, that's why the story was as weirdly received as it was, is, like, the guy who's being really angry about mask mandates when COVID derailed your professional career for a full calendar year. Mm-hmm. Like, you're the guy who's going to be upset about mask mandates?
Do you remember when he was going to get a title shot at 125, like immediately? And that's why I had to pull that fight. That's how Moreno got the fight. I still like Cody at 125. I think that's a better choice for him. Anyway, man, someone pointed this out. I saw this video on YouTube talking about how, remember when Cody Garbrandt was dodging punches, like mimicking Dominic Cruz in a fight? And we went from that, like a guy showing how good his defense was and hands, to becoming absurdly hittable very quickly. Like, what happened there?
I believe he had a couple of back injuries, right? And that was the thing that always kind of concerned me with him, because we had Mike to residentially explain, after the age of 30, your back doesn't get better. Your back, there's a lot. Mike talked about his, in detailed stretching regiment for his back, because your back gives you issues the older you get. So, with those surgeries, it stood to reason his mobility was going to lessen. His little lateral quickness was going to just go, and in this combat sports, fractional slowdowns in movement is all the difference in the world between getting hit by that hook or not. So, it's like you said, it's tough, because in a year's time, we don't know if he's gotten healthier or worse. It's really tough to say without seeing him.
Do you remember when we thought, like, when he was going to fight Dominic, we're like, okay, Dominic is so in this fucking kid's head that he's not going to be able to function properly, right? He's just going to see red the whole time. And then Cody put on maybe, like, the best performance of his career, probably, in terms of just, like, technique and everything. And then, but with the TJ shit, it seemed like he lost all sense of composure. It's like two different people.
That's what you just call, in Fire Emblem terms, Bobby, that's the weapon triangle, a.k.a. rock, paper, scissors. Each one of them was the perfect foil to the other one for some reason, and that's what kind of made that weird triple rivalry so fun.
Yeah, we don't have any picks from the guys, but me and Steph are going to make these picks, and then Steph at the end is going to tell me what parlay I'm going to lose money on here when I go to Vegas.
Yeah, Bob, I might get 30 on it.
Yeah, whatever we come up with here, we're going to lay some money on this.
30 is my arbitrary number of what's in my Venmo account I can send you.
That's Venmo money's not real either. It's not real. Half the PS5 was paid for with Venmo money. I only paid $250 for that thing. Betting line for this, though, is close. Jesus Christ.
Rob,
what was it when I said? What was it when I sent it to you this morning? Because I think it's
Rob Font was the slight favorite at -115 to -105. Cody Garbrandt in a double favorites match.
Yeah, now it's -110. Both of them on 5 dimes. You're picking your boy Rob Font?
I am. He's my guy. I'm just gonna keep rolling with him. It's tough, right? Because what Rob Font does well is historically what the good version of Cody Garbrandt probably does better, right? Mm-hmm. He has even better movement with just as much power in his hands. Rob, he's not flashy. He's a really good boxer, credible grappling game, but he's here to punch. He's not here to stall you out. He's not here to calf kick you to death. He's here to punch you. So it really just comes down to, where is Cody at in his physical, health and durability. And that's impossible to say, but it's even money. So I'm going to roll with my guy here. And, I would love it that Rob Font wins. And then whatever that airline was, we suddenly see their Twitter account be like, yo, Rob, get a free ticket to anywhere we fly. Where you want to go?
We're looking for the, Rob Font is our champion tweet, right? Like that.
That's what I'm looking for, Bob.
I feel I've picked Cody Garbrandt a lot. I know I have, because he was a guy I thought very highly of. And I don't think it's too late for him to get his shit together. But I don't think coming off of dealing with COVID is where that's going to happen necessarily. And is he fighting at 135 because he can't get down to 125? Or does he just need a fight because man hasn't fought in a year? And, don't think they're handing out a lot of PPP loans for, unless you're Tito Ortiz. It's a whole different can of wax. But I don't know where he's at. And I would, I'm happy with either result, quite frankly, because I think this is going to be an awesome fight. I would like to see the winner of this stay in the weight class, though. And if it's not going to be Cody, probably best for Rob Font. So I think Rob Font, man, he's really coming to his own. Let's see where we get with this thing. So I'll
go with Rob.
I'm going with Rob.
Yeah, we don't have Mike and Mark's picks yet, but I'm certain one of them's going to take Cody.
I think they both might take Cody, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I think this is honestly, it's a
coin flip.
I'm not sure if Cody's not, I mean, do you think it's going into the line Cody's thing? Do you think Cody be a favorite if he wasn't? I mean, because Cody's not actually won a lot of fights recently either.
It really is impossible to say, just because like the ideal version of him is better than Rob Font, but back injuries accumulating, a year off from COVID, you know, like I don't know what COVID did to him, right? I haven't followed him personally like that, you know. Just as like a counterpoint is one of the star NBA players who had extended complications from COVID is Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics. He's 22 years old. He's one of those young all-stars, looks like to be the future of the league, will be one of the top guys for the next 10 years. But he said in an interview, I use an inhaler now. I've never had an inhaler before this point in my life, and now I need to have an inhaler on the sideline because that's how my breathing has changed, you know, and that stuff affects you. So, like I said, I don't know the intimate details of what Cody actually went through.
There's just so many variables.
Yeah,
man. That's honestly the reason. Like, if I knew what I was getting with here, I probably would. I pick Cody a lot, and I'm wrong a lot, obviously recently. But God damn it, I was the only one who picked him when all you guys picked Thomas Almeida. I'll tell you this, it worked out better than Thomas.
Since then, Bob? We all stopped picking Thomas Almeida, and what happened in
Thomas Almeida's
last
fighting.
Fight? What happened in his last fight, man? It got bad. He got he put up a good fight, but he got starched in his last fight.
Was that was with what's his name, right? Sideshow Bob.
Yeah.
Just I forgot his name. O'Malley. There it is. Okay, by the way, Ben Rothwell is a -300 against somebody on this card. So that is the fight where we're betting the other guy. What do you mean? We're betting the other guy.
Okay, that's a live underdog.
That's a live dog, baby. All right. Yan. I can't say her. Is it Jonan? Yan Jonan?
I would say Yan Zhaonan. Kind of almost a Z sound.
Zhaonan taking on Carla Esparza. Yan coming off of 6 fights in the UFC, all wins by decision. 13-1 overall. Carla Esparza, on the other hand, the former champion. She's won 4 straight, man. We all kind of wrote Carla Esparza off a while ago, I feel, but she's really putting it together. A lot of decisions here, too. No one's finishing anybody in this fight, folks. There'll be no finish. Betting odds for this one, Stefan?
You talk about writing Carla Esparza off. The betting line kind of is, and just that when I saw it, I was surprised she was the underdog, but +110 underdog for Carla Esparza to Zhaonan's -130 favorite.
Okay. I never picked Carla Esparza. I've realized. I'm the one who picked Joanna because I thought it was funny that she gave her a cookie. Like, that was where I was at. That's how little I thought of here, okay? I was mocked. And I'm not trying to get credit here because I remember you guys all mocked me for picking Joanna because you're like, of course Carla's going to win. That's how long I've been not picking
Mark
Carla.
Says, it's easy to just guess right on a pick. He has a sense of pride when he breaks down how the fight is actually going to go. We don't always do that, right?
No, that was just like, I like this lady. She might win.
She gave her an expired cookie.
And then she was like, it wasn't expired, I promise. I'm going to take Carla. I never pick Carla, but in a land where Carla's not going to get finished, I kind of get the impression I know what this fight looks like, and that is called a split decision. And it's going to be hard to tell who won, and I'm going to go with Carla Esparza getting the nod here. I mean, we've got 2 fighters here good at winning decisions, but Carla's on a bit of a run. Not 6 fights in a row on a run, but I think she's going to get it done here. What do you think, Steph?
Yeah, it's tough to call. I actually don't have a lot of visual memory in my head of stored footage of Zhaonan's fight. I can't super clearly, remember her wins. That said, I feel the way this is going to go is Mike and Mark are also going to pick Carla due to familiarity. And this is going to be a situation where 3 of you are going to pick the underdog. And I'll be like, well, if you'll just give me the favorite, I may as well take it. So I am going to go with Zhaonan on this, on the complete assumption there is no way Mike and Mark are picking her because they don't know who she is either.
Here's the thing, Mike's going to listen to this because Mike does. Mike might on principle pick her now at this point. By the way, I didn't give the standings of where we're at. Going into this, Mike's in first at 32-16. We've gotten much better this year overall, by the way. Mike's 32-16. I'm 31-17. Mark's 29-19. And you're a literal coin flip, brother. 24-24. Goddamn baseline of flipping a coin right there for us.
And just to the listeners here, and to the listeners of our podcast who are over in the Stefan section, you guys know, right? It's kind of almost dastardly at this point. Is the rest of the guys, they just refuse to acknowledge the 10-point modifier, which was clearly stated. It was very clearly stated.
You're barely ahead with the plus 10 modifier.
And so when the final standings go, you guys will be right to be salty about this and how people are just refusing to accept something that we all spoke to. But you know what?
We're going to go plus 15 on the Logan Paul Mayweather fight if you pick Logan Paul. That's what we're going to do on that one. All right, there's a couple other interesting fights on this card, but the one we're going to pick is the one we were actually going to pick last week. Didn't get to because we lost the fight. Jack Hermansson, Edmund Shabazian. Jack Hermansson's last fight we saw him in was when he, unfortunately for him, got Marvin Vittori'd back in December. Fight of the night. Before that, heel hook win over Kelvin Gastelum. Before that, getting knocked out by Jared Cannonier. Edmund Shabazian, dude came in real hot, man. He was fucking people up. Came into the UFC, won 4 straight fights, was on a contender series, he knocked out Brad Tavares. Short of using a lead pipe, knocking out Brad Tavares is, damn near impossible. Got him with a head kick, tapped out Jack Marshman, wins over Charles Bird and Darren Stewart, and then Derek Brunson put him on the treadmill, Steph. Put him on that treadmill. And by treadmill, he just, put him on the ground and let him not get up for a while. Beat his ass. TKO in the 3rd round. Exposed a real, I'm not sure. It might have been too much too soon, quite frankly. Derek Brunson's an excellent fighter. But it also might have been just a cardio deficiency we saw as well. Betting line for this one, Steph. What do we got?
We got Gentleman Jack coming in as the minus 155 favorite to Edmund's plus 135 underdog.
When he was booked against Brunson, I think I told you they've 100% booked this. I think we all agreed. They did not book this fight for Derek Brunson to win. This was let's get this prospect to win. That's why they booked Derek Brunson.
That's the story of Derek Brunson's career, right?
Let's give Derek Brunson a guy to lose.
Do it to
Kevin Holland.
Kevin Holland, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what they do to Derek Brunson. And Derek Brunson keeps persevering. I feel Derek Brunson parked in Dana White's spot once, and this is where we are. I am not written off this kid entirely because he's very young. I don't like the camp he's in, because it's hard to take Edmund Tarverdyan. I was about to say Targaryen, I swear to God. Edmund Tarverdyan seriously because... Look, he found a way to make Ronda knock people out. I'm going to give the man a little bit of credit here. But there's no defense. There's giant deficiencies in his coaching. So he's only 23. I think he might turn into something. I feel he hasn't fought in a goddamn while, though. He hasn't fought in a year. I would have liked to see him fight more, coming off of that loss. Jack, we know Jack's a good fighter.
Was his last fight his loss to Kelvin?
Jack
Jack.
Jack, his last fight was Marvin. That was Marvin in December.
Oh, Marvin.
He beat Kelvin. He heel hooked Kelvin. Then he lost to Marvin, but Shabazian hasn't fought since last August. And I think that's a mistake. You got to get reps in, man. I don't feel comfortable picking him. I wouldn't be shocked if he won, considering how good he looked in his wins. But Jack's just a more tried and true performer here, and I didn't ask for the betting line, but I believe he's a favorite too, right, Steph?
Oh, no, I gave it. We had minus 155 Jack to plus 135 Edmund.
Yeah, I'm going to take Hermansson here. What do you got?
Same. His thing that really kind of put him on the scene, it looks less good in hindsight because it was part of this kind of bad streak, but, he really, really pieced up Jacare. I forgot that he actually beat Kelvin, right? That's a really big notch because Kelvin is the guy who always gets to fight the guys who were champion, who are about to become champion. But, you know, he does give very credible performances even when he's outmatched in those. So, you know, he's a very high quality guy in his own right. But, you know, I mentioned Reddit earlier. This one's a shout out to my prequel heads because Edmund Tarverdian, he's Chancellor Valorum, and I am the Galactic Republic delegates, and I move for a vote of no confidence, Bobby. I just don't believe in anything this guy touches. Even Edmund, when he was gonna hit that main event card he had that he lost, I was like, I've never seen this guy, and he's a main eventer now. Like, I didn't see any of it. I didn't catch any of his other previous fights. All I had to hear was who his camp was, and I'm like, I don't believe in this kid. And it turned out to be the worst performance of his career against Derek Brunson. So maybe he might be something, right? He said he's young. He has
23.
You know, like, you know, knocking out Brad Tavares, who's a very tough guy, right? That's not nothing. There's clearly a skill set there, but I just have no faith in that camp whatsoever. You talked about Ronda knockout. She got the knockout on, like, turns out one of the worst striking women in the history of the sport, you know? And when Travis went over there, that dude started having Stefan Struve level knockouts, like in terms of being knocked out. Like, he was being devastated. Like you said, there are defensive holes in however they coach that when people lose from that camp, they lose spectacularly. Like, it's rough. I got to see it to believe it, and I haven't seen it yet.
By the way, I think this is a legitimate problem that he's a boxing coach, and the gloves are way smaller in MMA. Just legitimately, I think it's an issue. Also, mazel tov to Ronda Rousey and Travis Brown. They've been trying a long time, and she's pregnant. So, good for her. They got a bunch of goats. I've been on her YouTube channel. They have a farm. It's what she does now.
We're just never getting that pro wrestling 4 horsewomen, huh?
Yeah, never. Jessamine doesn't even wrestle. She's just on up, down, down.
I was gonna say, it's like, I feel like the other two that were there, I haven't seen them do anything in a long time.
I think Roddy quit. I'm not sure if Marina's got a job.
Yeah, Marina's just raising her and Roddy's kid, right? They're just a little family now.
Hey, man, maybe Roddy was getting paid. Roddy just left. I don't know what he's up to. All right. Just mentioning a couple other fights. Felicia Spencer's on this card, taking on a women's featherweight fighter with no Wikipedia page. We got Ben Rothwell against Chris Barnett. I will be betting on Chris Barnett. I'm just telling you right now. I got at least $20 I don't want to see ever again. Plus 250 Chris Barnett. And the reason Mike can't get an interview with Court McGee is because Court McGee is in Vegas. He's fighting Claudio Silva. Man, Yancy Medeiros is like the second fight on the card. What happened? Remember when Yancy was hot shit like a year and a half ago?
So you tell me y'all are definitely going to run into Court McGee in Vegas.
Yeah, it's 100%. I'm just going to walk around the, what's the name of the fucking shops we always, oh no, you know what we're going to? We're going to the Las Vegas Fight Shop. If I don't see Court McGee at the Las Vegas Fight Shop, you're going to see a picture. You're just going to get a text from me on Saturday. Just me with my arm around Court McGee. Like, yes. I'm going to ask about the watch again. See if he's got a coupon code for you. All right. Let's do stuff we like. I watched Jupiter's Legacy, but I'm going to hold off on that until Mike gets back because Mike has watched it as well, and I want to get his thoughts before we get into that deep shit, and Stefan hasn't watched it at all, and I think he will check it out maybe a little bit.
I'll get there eventually. Like I said, I got a lot on the plate right now.
Yeah, you know what? It's hard to get past the fact that Josh Duhamel is the lead, and it's not that I don't like Josh Duhamel, but it's traditionally, like,
he doesn't do much.
It's not good what he's in generally. He's normally just, we'll blow some shit up.
Also, everyone I know who's talked about it, and this is something, when you look at that, like, kind of, like, not movie poster, but, like, the little poster for the icon for it, that wig looks terrible. That wig is like, why do I want to watch this? Why do I want to watch Josh Duhamel in a big bad white wig?
The thing I did like is that Anna Akana. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her at all.
I am. She has a YouTube channel, and her forays into actual media have always been of a surprise to me.
Yeah, she played Batista in Wrestling Isn't Wrestling, I remember too.
Yeah, if she makes it as an actress, she's one of the rare true YouTube crossover like
Yeah.
success stories. Yeah.
That's why, like, when she showed up in episode, like, it's like 8 episodes. This isn't a spoiler. She's just in there in episode 7. And I'm like, oh shit, it's on Ankana.
Yeah, I know.
Excited.
I've seen the still. I know she plays an actual character.
Yeah.
The first random thing I super saw her in is funny because she technically has a speaking role, but she doesn't because it's voiced over. She's in Ant-Man.
Yeah.
When the guy is recalling his story at the end, it involves her as the hot girl who's telling the story.
Super duper fine, right? Was that what it is? Super duper. All the comments I saw on Reddit, she's like, "Oh, Anaconda's in this," and all the comments were for Jupiter's Legacy. She's like, "Oh, was she super duper fine or whatever, or crazy stupid fine or whatever it was?" That's an interesting show though. So it's worth checking out. The other thing I watched is I learned I didn't know a lot about Nick Gage. Dark Side of the Ring was in an episode about him. He's a deathmatch wrestler, and I think the Reddit comment that really summed it up for me well is, watching this has taught me that my speed of deathmatch might be shitty sparklers like Moxley and Omega had. Because, man, I am... Light tubes, I've learned stuff on, is where I draw the line, where I am not comfortable with what I'm seeing at all. And, this guy's an interesting story, though, because, like, he was a deathmatch wrestler, he was a drug addict, he robbed a bank, and his gimmick is that when he wrestles, his gimmick is that he's wearing a bandana over his face. And when he robbed the bank, he had nothing on his face. And John Moxley's on the episode, and Moxley goes, I got an email in 2011 saying, check this out. And it was a little video of of a bank getting robbed. And I'm like, holy shit, that's Nick Gage. And then Moxley's like, this fucking guy, he wears a bandana covering his face in the ring all the time. The one time he robs a bank, doesn't cover his face. That was excellent. I learned a lot about him. I didn't, it's interesting where you talk about there's a whole generation of wrestlers influenced by ECW in not a good way. But he talks about why he does it and just like, what, I love the rush of the crowd and all that, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, yeah, you could do that and not bleed like a stuck pig, but whatever. That show remains, my favorite weekly show to watch these days. And next week they're talking about the time WCW went to North Korea, which I am very excited to watch. But yeah, I don't have a lot this week. Steph, what do you got?
Yeah, a lot of continuing on. Like it's I won't rename them at this point, but like I'm watching like 7 different anime shows right now. I did start one which isn't new. It probably concluded its first season maybe like a couple of months ago, but I was just had a lot on the slate, so I was catching up to it now. Mike would have known about it, but it's called Jujutsu Kaisen. It's basically the big shonen hype. Shonen being kind of the battle anime series that, like, if you're not a typical follower of anime, you've heard of the shonen genre, because the shonen genre is your Dragon Ball Z, Bleach, Naruto, My Hero Academia. It's the big power fantasy ones about a young person who kind of gets exponentially more strong and powerful as they meet teachers and fight better. That's kind of the most well-known formula of anime shows. It kind of has kind of a supernatural kind of ghost and demon twist. Basically, what they're battling are like curses and everything, so kind of monsters. So in that sense, it kind of gives it a bit of a more adult feeling than some of these, just because the monsters they come up with, there is a lot of death on the show, dealing with these curses and things, which is kind of interesting. But I'd heard so much about it, and I knew I would get to it eventually. And not quite done with the first season yet, but it's pretty spectacular. It's one of those, as I watched it, like, I see what the hype is. I get why everyone talks about it. I get why this is the kind of biggest new series to come around in a few years. So definitely enjoying that. This past week, one of the biggest thing I enjoyed, and this is where Mark would have come in. Neither of us picked up this last iteration, but we've been playing them for as long as we can remember, going back to the original PlayStation. But Resident Evil 7 had come out, Resident Evil Village. And Mark and I, this is one thing I do super appreciate. I didn't quite understand in the earlier days of the internet YouTube stuff, but I get now. Bob, there's a certain point where you don't have the time, you don't have the money, or you don't have the energy, right? Whatever it is, you're missing some combination of it to play a video game like that. Mm-hmm. But with miracle of YouTube and Twitch, you can just watch people play it, mm-hmm. And it kind of just works as a background thing. And Mark and myself, not together, but separately, and we would talk about it. We've been watching a couple streamers, Maximilian Dude, is one that we've watched a lot. Gab Smolders, she is the girlfriend of another really popular YouTuber whose channel name is Jacksepticeye. But
I know who that is.
yeah, he's really, really famous. One of those has millions of like subscribers type guys. But yeah, she loves a lot of the horror stuff. And so Mark and I had both watched her playthrough of Resident Evil 7. Really, really cool game. If you haven't played it and if you've been on the internet, you've probably seen The Big Lady. Bobby, you've seen The Big Lady, right? Everyone likes The Big Lady.
Yeah.
You know, and the funny thing is like she really is only in like the first like 15-20% of the game, but that's kind of everyone's takeaway.
Is this a PlayStation exclusive or is it everything?
I think it might be everything. If it's not, I don't know if it's on Xbox, but it definitely at least came out on PC as well, because some people were playing it on really like souped up.
You
PC
bought it
rigs.
on PS4?
Oh, I didn't buy it at all. Mark and I were just watching it in absence
okay.
of buying it. So, you know, it's one of those things is like...
You bought 2K though, brother. That's the big news.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll
60 gigabyte update, brother.
We'll talk about that in a second. And then we'll talk about why I'm going to tell you not to buy it.
I'll be honest. I was already there, but okay.
Yeah. But I just want to say in terms of the series, you know, without going... Like I said to Mark, we played the original Resident Evil back on the original PlayStation, but there have been like I said, this is the 7th one. I lost the lore somewhere in between 4 through 6. I kind of stopped understanding what was going on, but, you know, I tried to get a little summary video to catch up on it. But I just want to say 7, having watched the complete thing now, having seen the ending, having seen the after credits, 7 might be one of my favorites of the entire franchise. The story is phenomenal. The scares are genuinely creepy. You know, again, I don't want to go into spoiler because I highly recommend if you're interested in Resident Evil, it's something you just want to experience yourself. But the way this game ties up the lore of the whole series, it was truly awesome. So one of my most enjoyable games to be a backseat watcher to in recent memory. So, you know, if Resident Evil means something to you, I definitely think it's worth watching a playthrough of someone that you like and get along with. So that's there. Yeah, Bob mentioned after numerous sales, I saw WWE 2K20 on sale in the PS Store for $30. It was the deluxe, like $100 edition. So you get all the DLCs, you get all kind of everything. You get the accelerator that unlocks everything from the beginning. And I was conned. I was conned by an internet article posted on May 5th of this year saying after a full calendar year and a lot of patches that the game has been mostly fixed and it's pretty fun now. And I am here to tell you, after immediately downloading a 65 gigabyte patch upon purchase of this game, it's playable. It is not fixed. There is so much jankiness in this.
They should have just started over, man.
It is.
They should have just started over.
And that is why the next series in the game is going to be 2K22. They very smartly took off 2021 to make it a 2-year cycle instead of it doing an annual thing. And hopefully they'll finally get it right. I don't want to rehash the details, but if you know, they were put in a bad place and kind of forced to launch that game with very little development time. But, you know, like I said, hats off from what the issues were. And I remember seeing all the joke meme videos. People who don't like wrestling would post videos about it because that's how broken this game was when it came out. It is playable, but it is far from a truly enjoyable experience because there's still a lot of jankiness messed up. Like I said, I took a stab on it. It was like 70% off. You know, I don't regret it too much. I've wasted $30 faster, and I may waste another $30 with some betting parlay you do this weekend. Mm-hmm. But, you know, it happens. And then otherwise, just quick shout out to live sports. You know, I went to this last Warriors game against Memphis, which was set in the plans. We got the play-in games coming in this week. Warriors versus Lakers. Steph Curry should be the MVP. I don't want to hear your Jokic nonsense. No one cares about the Denver Nuggets. Who cares about the third place Denver Nuggets, who are going to get eliminated by the second round?
8th place, baby. We believe 2.0.
It's
By the
happening.
way, we're 4.5 point dogs. I just looked. I'm hammering that fucking line when I get there. I'm getting rich on that, okay?
Would do it. And then lastly, I just kind of wanted to give a somber shout out to not a thing I liked, but a thing I loved. So, you know, for those of you who listened last week, I wasn't here. Unfortunately, I was saying goodbye to one of the OG founding members of what I have affectionately dubbed the Bully Squad. And that's, you guys know I have a couple Bulldogs, Olympia, and Gogi. But for a couple years there, I, lived with one of my dear friends, Courtney, and she had an English Bulldog named Pork Chop. Absolutely loved the hell out of her. Just, anybody who's ever known an English Bulldog, they are some of the sweetest creatures in this world. And we had to say goodbye to her at the ripe age of 11 years old. Theme that we're talking about with fighters, time catches up to us all. And, she had a really great run. Said goodbye to her. I love that dog. Love Courtney. Love Bulldogs. Loved all dogs, period. Most all of us are dog owners on this podcast. Mike, who doesn't yet have one of his own, is a friend and ally to the canine world. So just lost one of our gang this week. So just wanted to give my love and condolences to Courtney and hers. Yeah.
Really
love
Pork Chop. Really good dog.
Yep.
That was a really, really good dog. All right, boys and girls. I think that's it for this week. We're going to be back next week. We're going to be previewing... Holy shit, there's no card. There's no there's no card. Wow. What happened to Memorial Day every year was a pay-per-view. Now there's just no card. That's interesting. So we'll talk about something. I'm sure Bellator's got something going on. Maybe someone will get arrested.
Maybe John Jones will say something that he has to delete when he reads about how Stipe is next.
Maybe we'll talk about Anthony Rumble Johnson and identity theft, which we didn't even get into that. I need to figure out what happened there. That was a weird
quick thing for if you guys heard about it. For under $500 value, come on. In for a penny, in for a pound, as they say.
Yeah. Wow. That was a thing. All right, guys, I'll be back next week. We're going to see how much money I lost. It's going to be some amount.
How much money we won, Bobby? How much money we won?
We're going to have to work. Well, one of us might win. We have different picks for these 3 fights.
Fair enough.
So, God, I don't want to bet on any of these fights. They're too close. These are dangerous fights. You don't bet on minus 100 fights. You bet on a bunch of minus 300 fights. It's like a savings account. You go from safe investments. All right. I was Dr. Law. That was Kid Presentable. We'll see y'all next week. Peace out.
Cheers.